Captain Jinho Park stood at the window of his ship and stared at the largest structure he had ever seen. The grand chamber hung in space like a giant metal flower, its petals stretching for miles in every direction. Each petal glowed with a different color, representing one of the hundreds of alien species that made up the Galactic Council. Behind it, a neutron star spun slowly, casting strange shadows across the station's surface. Jinho had been in space for 3 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, was Earth's first diplomatic vessel. It was also Earth's first real spacecraft capable of traveling faster than light. They had discovered the technology only 5 years ago, buried in old mathematical theories that finally made sense. Now humanity was no longer alone in the universe. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission," said the communications officer. Her name was Yuna Lee, and she was barely 25 years old. Her hands shook slightly as she worked the controls. "Put it through," Jinho said. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect English. The translation technology was incredible. "Earth vessel Horizon's Edge, you are cleared for docking at Port 7. Ambassador Kim's party will be escorted directly to the council chamber. Do not deviate from the marked path." "Understood," Jinho replied. He looked at the woman standing beside him. Ambassador Mirai Kim wore a simple black suit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked calm, but Jinho had known her long enough to see the tension in her shoulders. "Ready?" he asked quietly. "No," she said with a slight smile. "But we're doing this anyway." The ship docked smoothly. As they stepped onto the station, Jinho felt the gravity shift slightly. It was comfortable, adjusted to human normal. Someone had done their homework. A group of aliens waited for them at the docking port. The lead creature stood about 7 feet tall, covered in green scales that reflected the station's lights. Its eyes were yellow and slitted like a snake's. "I am Counselor Vexitharan," the creature said. Its mouth didn't move when it spoke. The words came from a device on its chest. "I will guide you to the chamber. Follow me, do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to." Mirai raised an eyebrow but said nothing. They followed the alien through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered in symbols and writing that Jinho couldn't read. They passed dozens of different species. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated in bubbles of liquid. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Jinho's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Finally, they reached a massive door that reached up hundreds of feet. It opened silently, and they stepped into the grand chamber. Jinho had seen pictures, but they didn't capture the reality. The chamber was a sphere at least a mile across. Seats lined every surface, even the ceiling. Thousands of aliens sat in those seats, all of them looking down at the small platform in the center where the humans now stood. At the very top of the sphere, on a throne made of crystal, sat the High Arbiter. Qualmore was ancient. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. The creature was made of living crystal, each facet catching and bending light in different ways. It had ruled the council for over 10,000 years. When it spoke, the sound came from everywhere at once. "Humans of Earth," the Arbiter said, "you have been granted an audience with the Galactic Council. This is a great honor. We welcome you to the community of civilized species." Mirai stepped forward. "Thank you, High Arbiter. Earth is honored to meet the Council." "You are very young," Qualmore said. "Your species has only just learned to leave your own star system. You have much to learn about the universe and your place in it." "We're eager to learn," Mirai replied carefully. Vextharan moved to stand beside the human delegation. "The Council has reviewed Earth's application for membership. We find your species acceptable with conditions." Jinho felt his stomach tighten. This was it. This was why they had come. The Arbiter's voice filled the chamber again. "All species that join the Galactic Council must accept the tribute accords. This is the law that has maintained peace and order for 50,000 years. The accords ensure that all species contribute to the common good and receive the protection of the Council in return." A holographic document appeared in the air in front of Mirai. It was hundreds of pages long, written in Earth's various languages. Jinho could see English, Korean, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and dozens more. Someone had translated the entire thing. "You will provide 30% of Earth's resources annually," Vextharan said, reading from the document. "This includes minerals, energy sources, and biological materials. You will provide 15% of your population as workers for council projects. These workers will be rotated every 5 years. You will submit all military assets to council oversight. You will accept council observers on Earth and in your solar system. You will pay an annual fee based on your planet's gross production. Mirai's face remained perfectly calm as she scrolled through the document. Jinho watched her eyes move quickly across the text. He knew she was reading every word. In exchange, the Arbiter said, Earth will receive council protection from external threats. You will have access to council trading networks. You will receive technological assistance and cultural exchange opportunities. You will be granted representation in the lower council chambers. Every species in the galaxy has accepted these terms, Vextharin added. His yellow eyes gleamed. It is the price of civilization. The alternative is isolation. No trade, no protection, no access to the greater galaxy. Species that refuse the accords are quarantined to their home systems. If they become aggressive, they are dealt with. The threat was clear. Jinho felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his face neutral. Beside him, Mirai continued reading. You have 72 hours to review the accords and provide your response, Qualmore said. This is more time than we usually grant, but we understand you are new to these matters. Consider carefully. The Council's patience is generous, but it is not infinite. We appreciate the time, Mirai said. Her voice was steady. We will review these terms thoroughly and provide Earth's response within the deadline. Good, Vextharin said. He sounded satisfied, like a merchant who had already made the sale. You are dismissed. Return to your ship. We will reconvene in 72 hours for your formal acceptance. As they walked back through the corridors, none of the humans spoke. The weight of what they had just heard pressed down on all of them. 30% of resources, 15% of the population, total military control. It wasn't membership in a council. It was subjugation dressed in diplomatic language. Back on the horizon's edge, Mirai finally let her calm mask slip. She sat down heavily in the captain's chair and put her head in her hands. 15% of our population, she said quietly. That's over 1 billion people. They want us to hand over 1 billion people as laborers. They're calling them workers, Jinho said. But we know what that means. Slaves, Mirai said. They want Earth to become a slave state to the Council. Yuna looked up from her console. Captain, I'm picking up something. It's a narrow-beam communication, heavily encrypted. Someone on the station is trying to contact us privately. Jinho and Mirai exchanged glances. Can you trace it? Jinho asked. Working on it, got it. It's coming from the lower levels. One of the smaller species delegations. Yuna's fingers flew across her controls. Message reads they accepted too. Everyone accepts. You have no choice. I'm sorry. It's signed a friend. Mirai stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the grand chamber gleamed in the light of the neutron star. So beautiful. So cold. Send a message to Earth Command, she said. Tell them we need an emergency council. All department heads. The president, everyone. We have 72 hours to decide the future of humanity. What are you going to recommend? Jinho asked. Mirai was quiet for a long moment. I don't know yet. But I know one thing. Our ancestors didn't fight their way up from caves and through ice ages and wars and plagues just so we could surrender without a fight. She turned to face them. Get me everything we know about the Council. Their military strength, their technology, their history, how they enforce these accords. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before we make any decisions. The horizon's edge turned slowly in space, beginning its journey back toward Earth. They had 72 hours. The clock was already ticking. The Situation Room deep beneath the United Nations building in Geneva was filled with tension. On the walls, dozens of screens showed data, star charts, and video feeds from around the world. At the long table, representatives from every nation on Earth sat shoulder to shoulder. This was bigger than politics. This was about survival. Dr. Hyun Choi stood at the head of the table, adjusting his glasses nervously. He was a thin man in his 50s with gray streaking through his black hair. For the past 20 years, he had studied alien cultures, preparing for the day when humanity would meet other species. Now that day had come, and the reality was far darker than anyone had imagined. Let me make this clear, he said, his voice carrying through the silent room. The Galactic Council is not what it appears to be. They call themselves peacekeepers, but they're really running a protection racket on a galactic scale. A hologram appeared above the table, showing the Council's territory. It covered most of the known galaxy. Thousands of star systems connected by trade routes and communication networks. We've analyzed every piece of data we could gather. Hyun continued. The Council has 847 member species. But here's the interesting part. Only 12 of those species hold real power. The rest are subject states just like they want Earth to become. Admiral Daeho Song leaned forward. He was a broad-shouldered man with sharp eyes and a reputation for straight talk. Tell them about the military. Right, Hyun said, changing the hologram. Now it showed fleet positions and ship designs. The Council maintains a massive military force. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. On paper, they're unstoppable. On paper, Ambassador Mireille Kim said quietly. She sat at the table, having rushed back to Earth the moment the horizon's edge could make the jump. But not in reality? That's the key question, Hyun said. He pulled up more data. We hacked into their historical archives. Public records mostly, but very revealing. The Council hasn't fought a major war in 12,000 years. Every conflict since then has ended the same way. They show up with a big fleet. The other species takes one look at the numbers and surrenders. No actual fighting. The room erupted in conversation. Admiral Daeho raised his hand for silence. Let me get this straight. They're bullies who've never been in a real fight? Essentially, yes, Hyun said. Their technology is advanced, no question. But it's also old, very old. We found ship designs that haven't changed in 5,000 years. Their tactics are rigid and predictable. They've had no reason to innovate because nobody ever fights back. Why not? Asked President Chen of the Pan-Asian Alliance. Surely some species must have tried. 3 times, Hyun said, pulling up new data. Species 298 refused the Accords 4,000 years ago. The Council sent a fleet. 298 surrendered after seeing the fleet size, no shots fired. Species 561 tried to negotiate better terms 2,000 years ago. Same result. Species 742 actually fired on a Council ship 800 years ago. What happened to them? Someone asked. They were quarantined to their home system for 100 years. After that, they accepted the Accords fully. But here's the thing. In all 3 cases, the Council used overwhelming force to intimidate, not to actually fight. Mireille stood up. Show them what we found about their weapons. Hyun nodded and changed the display again. Council weapons are primarily energy-based. Plasma cannons, particle beams, electromagnetic pulse devices. They're powerful but designed for ship-to-ship combat in open space. Very direct, very straightforward, Admiral Daeho smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. They've never seen human warfare. Exactly, Hyun said. Our weapons technology developed through centuries of conflict. We innovate constantly because we had to. We've never had the luxury of peace enforced by overwhelming power. We learned to fight smart, not just strong. The Admiral stood and took over the presentation. For the past 3 years since we achieved FTL travel, we've been preparing for this exact situation. We hoped for peaceful first contact, but we planned for the alternative. The hologram shifted to show Earth's solar system. We've built defensive installations on Mars, the Moon, and several asteroid bases. We have kinetic kill satellites in Earth orbit. We've developed a new class of fighter craft specifically designed for the kind of combat we expect from the Council. You expected this? Mireille asked. We expected something, Daeho said. When you study history, you learn that empires don't stay empires by being nice. We prepared for the possibility that the first aliens we met would be hostile or demanding. A woman in a white naval uniform spoke up. She was young, younger than most people in the room, but her rank insignia showed she was a lieutenant. Her name was Sumin Han, and she was the military's top tactical analyst. I've run the simulations, Sumin said. If the Council sends a standard enforcement fleet, based on what we know of their tactics and technology, we have a 73% chance of disabling their ships before they can reach Earth. The room went silent. 73%? The President said. Those are good odds. Against a force that outnumbers us 50 to 1? Sumin replied. Yes, sir. Those are very good odds. The key is that they won't expect resistance. Their battle plans are designed to intimidate, not to fight. When we hit them with tactics and weapons they've never seen, they'll be forced to withdraw and reassess. Or they'll get angry and come back with everything they have, someone said. Possibly, Admiral Daeho admitted. But Dr. Choi's research suggests otherwise. The Council's entire structure is based on the appearance of invincibility. If we prove they can be hurt, If we show other species that the Council can be resisted, their whole system starts to collapse. Hyun stepped forward again. I've identified 6 other species that have shown signs of dissatisfaction with the Council. They pay their tributes and follow the rules, but their communications show frustration. If Earth stands up to the Council and survives, those 6 might find courage to push back too. And then we've started a galactic war, Mirai said quietly. Or a galactic revolution, Hyun countered. The Council's power is based on fear and precedent. 50,000 years of precedent. Every species that came before us accepted the Accords because that's what you do. But what if someone breaks the pattern? The discussion went on for hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Some advocated accepting the Accords and working to change things from within. Others wanted to reject the Council entirely and prepare for isolation. A few suggested immediate military action. Finally, as dawn broke over Geneva, Mirai stood up. Everyone fell silent. We have 24 hours left, she said. I need to know what Earth's position is before I go back to that station. So I'm going to lay out 3 options and we're going to vote. She held up one finger. Option 1. We accept the Accords. We hand over 30% of our resources and 15% of our people. We become subjects of the Council. We hope that over time we can change things from within. No one spoke. Mirai held up a second finger. Option 2. We reject the Accords but try to negotiate. We offer smaller tributes, try to find middle ground. We play the diplomatic game and hope we can reach a compromise. Admiral Deho shook his head. They've already made clear this isn't a negotiation. Which brings me to option 3, Mirai said, holding up a third finger. We refuse, completely. We tell the Council that Earth will join the galactic community as equals or not at all. We prepare for the consequences, whatever they may be. President Chen spoke carefully. Option 3 means possible war. Option 1 means definite surrender, Mirai replied. And option 2 means wasting time they won't give us. The vote took 30 minutes. When it was done, the result was clear. Earth would choose option 3. They would refuse. But Mirai had one more idea. If we're going to refuse, we need to do it in a way that sends a message. Not just to the Council, but to every species watching. We need to show strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance. We need to make them understand that humanity isn't refusing out of ignorance or pride. We're refusing because we understand exactly what they're offering, and we choose freedom instead. How do we do that? Hyun asked. Mirai smiled. With one word. One word that every culture in human history understands. One word that changes everything. She told them her plan. When she finished, the room sat in stunned silence. Then Admiral Deho started to laugh. It's insane, he said. It might start a war. It will definitely make them angry. But will it work? Mirai asked. The Admiral thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. Yes, I think it might. Orders went out immediately. The military moved to defensive positions. Ships that had been in dock for repairs were pushed into service ahead of schedule. Satellites were activated. Codes were changed. Every defensive system Earth had built over the past 3 years came online. Lieutenant Suman Han worked around the clock, coordinating with bases on the Moon and Mars. Every simulation was run again. Every contingency was planned. If the Council came looking for a fight, Earth would be ready. Dr. Hyun Choi contacted researchers around the world, gathering every scrap of information about the Council. He built psychological profiles of key members, trying to predict how they would react to what was about to happen. The more he learned, the more convinced he became that Mirai's plan could work. The Grand Chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the galaxy that Earth was about to give its response to the tribute accords. Thousands of species tuned in to watch through quantum broadcasts. Some were curious. Others were amused. Most expected the same result they had seen for 50,000 years. The humans would accept. They always did. Captain Jinho Park stood on the platform beside Ambassador Mirai Kim. Behind them, a small honor guard of 6 human soldiers stood at attention, their uniforms crisp and formal. They carried no weapons. The Council had forbidden it. But their presence was still powerful. They stood straight and proud, representing a species that had fought its way to the stars. High Arbiter Qualmore sat on the crystal throne, light refracting through its body in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. Around the vast sphere of the chamber, delegates from hundreds of species watched and waited. The air hummed with translated conversations. thousands of voices creating a strange harmony. Counselor Vextheron stood at his position near the platform, his scaled body reflecting the chamber's lights. His yellow eyes fixed on the humans with something that looked like satisfaction. He had already prepared his speech for after they accepted. He would welcome them to the council family, remind them of their duties, and accept their gratitude for the generous terms. The Arbiter's voice filled the chamber, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Ambassador Kim of Earth, the 72 hours have passed. The council awaits your response to the tribute accords. Has your species reached a decision? Mirai stepped forward. Her voice was clear and steady, amplified by the chamber's system so that every being present could hear. Yes, High Arbiter. Earth has reviewed the tribute accords thoroughly. We have consulted with our leaders, our scientists, our military commanders, and our people. We have considered every aspect of what you're asking. Excellent, Vextheron said. Then let us proceed with the formal acceptance ceremony. If you will simply state that Earth accepts the terms. We've also analyzed the historical data, Mirai continued, cutting him off smoothly. We know that 847 species have accepted these accords. We know the Council has maintained this system for 50,000 years. We understand the tradition and the power behind it. Then you understand you have no choice, Vextheron said. His voice carried a hint of impatience. We understand we have exactly one choice, Mirai replied. The most important choice a species can make. The choice between freedom and subjugation. The chamber went quiet. The background hum of conversation stopped. Every eye, in whatever form eyes took for each species, turned to the small group of humans on the platform. Qualmore leaned forward slightly. Explain. Mirai activated a holographic display. Earth appeared in the air, spinning slowly. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. A beautiful world full of life. This is Earth, she said. Population 11 billion. We are a young species by galactic standards. We achieved spaceflight only 200 years ago. Faster than light travel 5 years ago. We have no great empire. No massive fleet. No colonies spanning star systems. This is known, the Arbiter said, which is why the Council's protection is so valuable to you. What you might not know, Mirai continued, is our history. Humans have fought over 50,000 wars. We have destroyed and rebuilt our civilizations dozens of times. We have survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and our own worst impulses. We nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We came within years of making our planet uninhabitable through pollution and climate change. She paused, letting the hologram shift to show images from Earth's history. Ancient warriors, medieval battles, world wars, the mushroom clouds of atomic bombs, the slow greening of restored forests. We are not a peaceful species, Mirai said. We are a species that learned peace the hard way. We learned that cooperation is stronger than conflict. That diversity is better than uniformity. That freedom is worth any price, Vextheron hissed. Your pretty speech changes nothing. You are one small world. The Council is vast. Accept the accords or face the consequences. That's exactly what we're here to discuss, Mirai said. The consequences. You want 30% of our resources. That would cripple our economy and leave billions in poverty. You want 15% of our population as workers. That's over 1 billion people torn from their homes and families. You want control of our military, our government, our sovereignty. That is the price of civilization, Qualmore said. Every species pays it. No, Mirai said quietly. That's the price of submission. And humanity doesn't submit, the chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in hundreds of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Vextheron's scales flushed darker, a sign of anger in his species. Silence, the Arbiter commanded, and the chamber fell quiet again. Ambassador Kim, you cannot refuse the accords. No species has ever refused? Mirai finished. Then I suppose Earth will be the first. She deactivated the hologram and faced the Arbiter directly. Behind her, Captain Jinho Park and the honor guard stood perfectly still, their faces calm. They had known this moment was coming. They were ready for it. Before you make your final decision, Qualmore said, and there was something almost sad in its voice, understand what you are choosing. The Council will not trade with you. We will not share technology with you. We will quarantine your system. If you show any aggression, we will respond with overwhelming force. You will be alone in the galaxy, isolated and forgotten. We've been alone before, Mirai said. For all of human history, we thought we were the only intelligent life in the universe. We managed. We thrived. We reached the stars by ourselves. If we must be alone again, so be it. But we will be free. This is foolishness, Vextheron snarled. You speak of freedom, but you don't understand power. The Council has maintained order for 50 millennia. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy. We have weapons that could destroy your entire world. You have nothing. We have something you've forgotten, Mirai said. We have the willingness to fight for what we believe in. You haven't fought a real war in 12,000 years. Your fleets are massive, but they're designed to intimidate, not to fight. Your weapons are powerful, but your tactics are ancient and rigid. You've grown soft, Counselor. The Council has grown soft. The chamber went deathly quiet. No one had ever spoken to the Council like this. Not in 50,000 years. Qualmore's crystalline body seemed to darken. You dare threaten the Council?
No, High Arbiter, Mirai said.
I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you the truth. Earth isn't refusing out of ignorance. We've studied you. We know your capabilities and your limitations. We're refusing because we've calculated the odds and we're willing to accept the consequences. She took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything came down to this, High Arbiter, Counselor Vextheron, delegates of the Galactic Council. You have asked for Earth's response to the tribute accords. You want our resources. You want our people. You want our submission. You've given us 72 hours to consider your generous offer. Mirai's voice rang through the chamber, clear and strong. Earth's response is no. One word. Simple. Final. Absolute. The silence that followed was deeper than space itself. 847 species heard that word. 50,000 years of precedent shattered in a single syllable. Vextheron recovered first. Then you have chosen war. No, Mirai said calmly. We've chosen freedom. If you choose war, that's your decision. But understand this. If the Council sends a fleet to Earth, we will defend ourselves. We won't attack your other holdings. We won't pursue your ships when they retreat, but we will not allow you to enslave our people. Retreat? Vextheron laughed, a harsh sound. The Council does not retreat. We have never retreated. We will send a correction fleet to your system, and you will learn the price of defiance. Then I suppose we'll see, Mirai said. She turned to Captain Jinho Park. Captain, prepare the Horizon's Edge for departure. Our business here is concluded. Wait, Qualmore said. The Arbiter rose from its throne, a movement that made the entire chamber seem to shift. You truly believe you can resist the Council? I believe we can try, Mirai said. And I believe that trying is better than surrendering without a fight. Maybe we'll lose. Maybe your fleets will overwhelm our defenses and force us to accept the accords. But at least we'll have stood for something. At least we'll have shown the galaxy that freedom is worth fighting for. She paused, then added, And High Arbiter, we're not the only ones watching. There are other species in this chamber who are tired of paying tribute, who are tired of giving away their resources and their people, who are tired of being subjects instead of equals. Today Earth said no. Tomorrow someone else might say the same thing. And the day after that, someone else. Are you trying to incite rebellion? Vextheron demanded. I'm telling the truth, Mirai said. Your system is built on fear. Fear of isolation, fear of military action, fear of being different. But fear is a poor foundation for civilization. Eventually, someone always stands up. It might as well be us. Qualmore was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke, and its voice was quieter than before. You have made your choice, Ambassador Kim. The Council will make ours. Go back to your world. Prepare your defenses. Admiral Daeho Song stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Mars. Around him, dozens of officers worked at their stations, coordinating the defense of humanity's home system. Holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, every satellite, every weapon platform. The solar system had become a fortress. Status report, Daeho said. Lieutenant Suman Han looked up from her tactical console. All defensive positions are active, Admiral. Lunar batteries at full charge. Mars orbital defense grid is operational. Asteroid base Delta reports ready status. Earth's satellite network is online and tracking. Fighter squadrons? All 15 squadrons report ready for launch, sir, said another officer. Lieutenant Quan Bayek's squadron is already in space, running patrol patterns near Jupiter. Daeho nodded. Quan Bayek was their best pilot. Young but brilliant. He had been born on Mars, part of the first generation of humans to grow up off Earth. He understood space combat in a way that planet-born pilots never quite could. Time until the Council fleet arrives? Estimated 4 hours, sir, Suman replied. We're tracking their FTL signatures. 50 ships, just as Dr. Choi predicted. Heavy cruisers and support vessels. Standard Council enforcement formation, 50 ships. Against Earth's meager defense force of 23 combat vessels and a few dozen fighters. On paper, it wasn't even close to fair. But Daeho wasn't planning to fight fair. Send a message to all ships, he said. Remember the plan. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to disable them and make them think twice about coming back. Hit their engines, their communications, their sensors. Leave the crews alive. We're showing strength, not committing genocide. Yes, sir, an officer replied. Daeho looked at the display showing Earth. His homeworld, blue and green and beautiful, floating in the darkness. 11 billion people down there going about their lives. Most of them knew what was coming. The governments had told them everything. No more secrets. Humanity deserved to know that their freedom hung in the balance. There had been protests, of course. Some people wanted to accept the Council's terms. Better to surrender than die, they argued. But most people supported the decision. They remembered their history. They knew that freedom once lost was almost impossible to regain. Admiral, Suman said, we're getting reports from the outer system. Lieutenant Kwanbeck's squadron has made visual contact with the Council fleet. Put him through. The hologram shifted, showing the interior of a fighter cockpit. Lieutenant Kwanbeck looked young, barely 30, with sharp eyes and steady hands on the controls. Behind him, the blackness of space was lit by the glow of 50 massive ships. Admiral, they're here, Kwan said, and they're huge. Each of those cruisers is at least 3 times the size of our largest ship. Do they see you? Not yet, sir. We're running silent, using Jupiter's magnetosphere to mask our signatures, but they'll know we're here soon enough. Good work, Lieutenant. Stay close and observe. Report any changes in their formation. Yes, sir. The Council fleet moved through the outer solar system with the confidence of conquerors. They were beautiful ships in their way, sleek and powerful, covered in plating that shimmered with energy fields. They moved in perfect formation, not a single ship out of position. They've done this before, Suman observed, many times. That's their weakness, Daeho said. They're predictable. They follow the same playbook every time because it's always worked. Today we show them a different game. On the bridge of the Council flagship, Counselor Vexa Theron sat in the command chair and felt satisfied. This would be simple. The humans would see the fleet, understand their situation was hopeless, and surrender. Perhaps a few shots would need to be fired to prove the point, but nothing serious. Then the accords would be signed and order would be restored. Status of the human forces, he asked his tactical officer. Minimal, Counselor. We detect 23 small vessels scattered throughout the system. Several space stations. Some satellites around the 3rd planet. Nothing that could threaten us. Excellent. Continue toward the 3rd planet at standard approach speed. Broadcast the message I prepared. Across every frequency, in every Earth language, the message transmitted, people of Earth. Your leaders have made a foolish choice. The Galactic Council's correction fleet has arrived. You have one final opportunity to accept the tribute accords and avoid destruction. You have 1 hour to comply. In the Mars Command Center, Daeho listened to the message and smiled grimly. 1 hour. How generous. Well, let's not waste it. Execute Phase 1. Throughout the solar system, things began to happen. Small things. Quiet things. Things the Council fleet didn't notice at first. Satellites that had appeared inactive suddenly powered up. Asteroids that seemed to be drifting naturally adjusted their courses slightly. Fighters hiding in the shadow of Saturn's rings fired up their engines. Human ships that had been scattered began moving into position. Lieutenant Kwanbeck's squadron emerged from behind Jupiter, their fighters small and quick compared to the massive Council ships. Kwan's hands moved across his controls with practiced ease. All units, this is Kwan Leader, he said over the squadron channel. Remember your targets. Engines first. Stay fast, stay unpredictable. Let's show them what human pilots can do. The fighters accelerated, moving faster than the Council sensors expected. Their small size and speed made them hard to track. By the time the Council fleet realized they were under attack, Kwan's squadron was already among them. Incoming craft, a Council officer shouted. Small vessels moving at... That's impossible. Nothing should move that fast in normal space. Evasive action, Vex Theron commanded. But Council ships were designed for power, not agility. They couldn't turn quickly. They couldn't dodge. They could only absorb hits with their shields and hope to shoot down the attackers. Quan's fighter dove under a council cruiser, his weapons firing precisely at the engine ports. Not plasma or lasers like the council used. Kinetic weapons. Simple, ancient, and devastatingly effective. Metal slugs traveling at relativistic speeds punched through the cruiser's shields and tore into its engines. Quan leadered a squadron. My target is disabled. Moving to next. One by one, council ships found their engines failing. They didn't explode. The humans weren't trying to kill anyone. But without engines, the ships became useless, drifting in space. How are they doing this? Vex Tharon demanded. Our shields should stop anything. The projectiles are too small and fast, the tactical officer said. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons and large missiles. These are just pieces of metal, but they're moving so fast, I don't care about explanations. Destroy those fighters. The council ships tried. They fired their plasma cannons and particle beams, filling space with deadly energy. But the human fighters moved like water, flowing around the attacks. Every pilot had trained for years in simulators that were brutally difficult. The real battle was actually easier than the training. Phase 2, Admiral Deho ordered from Mars. The satellites around Earth activated, but they weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were jammers, emitting electromagnetic pulses that scrambled council sensors and communications. Suddenly the council ships couldn't see clearly. They couldn't coordinate. Each ship was fighting alone. We're blind, a council officer shouted. Switch to backup sensors, Vex Tharon ordered. They did, but the backup sensors were older, slower. By the time they came online, more council ships had been disabled. Then Phase 3 began. The human defense fleet emerged from hiding, 23 ships moving in perfect coordination. They weren't trying to fight the council ships directly. Instead, they deployed thousands of small drones, each carrying nothing but a large mirror. What are those? Vex Tharon asked. The drones positioned themselves around council ships and angled their mirrors. Suddenly, the council's own weapons were being reflected back at them. When they fired at the human fighters, their beams bounced off mirrors and hit their own ships. Cease fire, Vex Tharon commanded. All ships, cease fire. But the damage was done. 30 of the 50 council ships were disabled, their engines destroyed or their systems scrambled. The remaining 20 were scattered and confused, their formation broken. Lieutenant Suman Han watched the tactical display with satisfaction. It's working, Admiral. Their fleet is in disarray. Don't celebrate yet, Deho warned. They still have 20 functional ships. That's enough to cause serious damage if they decide to start shooting at planets instead of fighters. But the council fleet didn't shoot at planets. Vex Tharon wasn't stupid. He could see that the humans had been planning this. Every move they made was calculated to disable, not destroy. They were showing restraint even in battle. If he started shooting at civilian targets, Earth would have justification to abandon that restraint. All ships, Vex Tharon said, his voice bitter. Retreat to the outer system. We need to regroup and reassess. The remaining council ships began to withdraw, dragging their disabled companions with tractor beams. Lieutenant Quan Bayek's squadron followed at a distance, making sure they actually left. On Mars, Admiral Deho let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Get me damage reports. How many casualties? Checking now, sir, an officer replied. After a moment, preliminary reports show. Admiral, we lost 2 fighters. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. This was unusual. Normally, the chamber buzzed with conversations in hundreds of languages, delegates discussing business and politics. But today, everyone was quiet. Everyone was waiting. High Arbiter Qualmore sat on the crystal throne, its body darker than usual. Light still refracted through it, but the patterns were subdued, almost somber. Around the vast sphere, delegates sat in their assigned positions, watching the center platform where Counselor Vex Tharon stood. Repeat your report, the Arbiter said. Vex Tharon's scales had lost some of their shine. His voice, usually so confident, carried notes of frustration and anger. The correction fleet engaged human forces in their home system. The humans employed unconventional tactics, kinetic weapons moving at relativistic speeds, electromagnetic jamming, mirror drones, fighter craft that moved faster and more unpredictably than our tactical model suggested was possible. And the result? Qualmore asked, though everyone already knew the answer. 30 ships disabled, 20 forced to retreat. No human casualties. 4 human injuries. The fleet returned without accomplishing its mission. The silence deepened. 50,000 years of precedent. 847 species. Every single one had either accepted the accords willingly or surrendered after seeing the Council's power. Until now, they didn't destroy your ships, a delegate observed. It was a small creature from a species that rarely spoke in council sessions. They could have, but they didn't. The humans showed restraint, Vextheron admitted. They defended their territory without pursuing us or attacking our other assets. They sent a message saying they would welcome us peacefully but would defend against hostility. This is unprecedented, another delegate said. What do we do? High Arbiter Qualmore was quiet for a long moment. The crystal being had ruled the council for 10,000 years. It had seen species rise and fall. It had maintained order through strength and precedent. But now, something had changed. The human ambassador was correct, Qualmore said finally. We have grown soft. We have relied on intimidation for so long that we forgot how to actually fight. More importantly, we forgot why we fight. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. The Arbiter had never admitted weakness before. What are you saying? Vextheron demanded. That we should simply allow the humans to defy us? If we do nothing, other species will follow their example. The council will collapse. Perhaps, Qualmore said. Or perhaps the council will evolve. Tell me, counselor, why did we create the tribute accords? Vextheron looked confused. To maintain order, to prevent conflict, to ensure all species contribute to the greater good. Those are the words we use, the Arbiter said. But what is the truth? Dr. Hyun Choi of Earth published his research. It has been spreading across our networks. Many delegates have read it. Should I tell you what he discovered? No one answered. Qualmore continued. The tribute accords were created 50,000 years ago after a devastating war. 12 powerful species decided that the best way to prevent future wars was to control everyone else. They created a system where new species had to pay tribute and submit to oversight. It was meant to last a few thousand years just until the wounds of the war healed. The Arbiter paused, letting that sink in. But the system was so effective at maintaining the power of those 12 species that they never changed it. 50,000 years later, the system remains, not because it is just or necessary, but because it benefits those in power. You speak treason, Vextheron said. I speak truth, Qualmore replied. I am one of those 12. I have been part of this system since its creation. I helped build it, and I have watched it slowly transform from a temporary measure into a permanent empire. The humans are right to refuse it. The chamber erupted again. Delegates shouted in hundreds of languages. Some supported the Arbiter. Others accused it of betraying the Council's principles. The noise was deafening. Silence. Qualmore commanded, and the chamber obeyed. I am calling for a vote. Not on whether to punish Earth, on whether to reform the tribute accords themselves. You cannot be serious, Vextheron said. The accords are the foundation of everything we have built. They are the foundation of what we have become, Qualmore corrected. And what we have become is exactly what the humans accused us of being. An empire built on fear, demanding tribute from species that have no choice but to pay. A small voice spoke from one of the lower tiers. Everyone turned to look. It was a delegate named Soo-hyun Yoon, representing a species that few people paid attention to. They were a minor civilization, paying their tributes quietly and never causing problems. High Arbiter, Soo-hyun said nervously. My people have been part of the council for 3,000 years. We pay 30% of our resources. We send 15% of our population to work on council projects. We obey every rule and meet every requirement. Yes, Qualmore said. Your people are model members of the council. But we are not free, Soo-hyun said, voice growing stronger. We work constantly just to meet the tribute requirements. We have no resources to invest in our own development. Our people who are sent away as workers rarely return. The council calls it cultural exchange, but we call it what it is. Our children are taken from us. Other delegates began to murmur. More voices joined in, mostly from smaller species who rarely spoke up. The accords are destroying us, another delegate said. We accepted them because we had no choice. We stay because we have no choice. But if Earth can refuse, if Earth can defend itself and survive, maybe we can too. This is chaos, Vextheron said. You are inciting rebellion, High Arbiter. No, Qualmore said. I am acknowledging reality. The humans have shown us that our system is broken. We can either fix it or we can watch it collapse as more species follow Earth's example. Then what do you propose? A delegate asked. I propose we invite the humans to join us again. Not as subjects, but as equals. No tribute, no forced labor, true membership. And I propose we offer the same terms to any other species that wishes to renegotiate their status. The chamber exploded in argument. It went on for hours. Some delegates supported the reform. Others opposed it violently. Some wanted to send a larger fleet to Earth. Others wanted to abandon the Accords entirely. Finally, a vote was called. It was close. Very close. But when the count was finished, the reform had passed by a narrow margin. "Send a message to Earth," Qualmore said. "Invite Ambassador Kim to return. Tell her we wish to discuss new terms." On Earth, Ambassador Mireille Kim received the message with cautious optimism. Admiral Daeho Song was more skeptical. "It could be a trap," he said. "They could be trying to lure us into complacency." "It could be," Mireille agreed. "But we have to try. We fought for the right to choose our own path. Now we have to walk that path, even if it's risky." Captain Jinho Park volunteered to pilot her back to the council station. Dr. Hyun Choi insisted on coming too, to help analyze any new proposals. Lieutenant Yuna Lee joined them, along with a small security team. The Horizon's Edge approached the Grand Chamber cautiously, scanning for threats. But there were none. Instead, they received a proper diplomatic welcome with honor guards and formal ceremonies. High Arbiter Qualmore met them personally at the docking port. "Ambassador Kim, welcome back. I apologize for the circumstances of your previous visit." "Thank you, High Arbiter," Mireille said carefully. "Your message mentioned new terms?" "Yes. Come, we have much to discuss." In a private chamber, away from the crowds and politics, Qualmore explained the Council's proposal. Earth would join as a full member with no tribute requirements. No forced labor. No military oversight. True equality. In exchange, the Arbiter said, we ask for Earth's cooperation in reforming the Council itself. Other species are already requesting renegotiation of their terms. We need help managing this transition. Your species understands freedom and justice in ways that we have forgotten. Dr. Hyun Choi studied the documents carefully. "These terms are fair," he said. "Better than fair, but why? Why change now?" "Because you forced us to see the truth," Qualmore said. "For 50,000 years we have ruled through fear. We told ourselves it was for the greater good, but really it was for our own benefit. You showed us that a species with courage and conviction can stand against us. If one species can do it, others will follow. Better to change willingly than to be forced to change through conflict." "What about Counselor Vexit Theron?" Jinho asked. "He wanted to destroy us." "Vex Theron represents the old way of thinking," Qualmore said. "But even he is beginning to see that the old way cannot continue. Change is coming, whether we embrace it or resist it." Mireille read through the proposal carefully. It was everything Earth had wanted. Freedom, equality, cooperation instead of subjugation. But something still bothered her. What happens to the species that already paid tribute for thousands of years? What about Representative Soo-hyun Yoon's people, who gave away their resources and their children? "That is a difficult question," Qualmore admitted. "We cannot return what was taken. We cannot undo the past, but we can try to build a better future. We are proposing a council development fund, using resources from the 12 founding species to help smaller species recover and grow. It will take generations, but it is a start. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was.